Alright, so while Malika is trying to figure out why he can't come out, I'm gonna give you guys a heads up. Some of these kills were actually from my world first level 1 one-shot all bosses challenge run. So with this kind of power at level 1, imagine what is capable of at higher levels. This is a 10-minute starter guide to show you guys how to put this build together for yourselves. Alright guys, this is the entire progress route that we're going to take for this guide. Anytime you see a long straight line like that, it means we used a waygate to get from point A to point B. Also remember that if you're very new to the game, the full walkthrough will be linked in the description below. You should start off as either a prisoner or an astrologer. I recommend an astrologer. And be sure to take the stone sword key as your keepsake. We're going to be needing several of them. Then head out to Limgrave and let's get this party started. As always, you're going to first want to work your way up to Gatefront so that you can get your whistle and access to Torrent, the whetstone knife for access to weapon affinities, and the lone wolf ashes for an early summon. Then you're going to follow the road through Stormvale up to this point on the map. Kill the Mountain Knight and pick up the Golden Valash of War. We're going to put it on a dagger for a 12% damage buff. Then head back to the first step side of Grace and jump down to pick up the Gold Pickle Foulfoot. From the Gatefront side of Grace, ride southeast until you get to Fort Height. I generally just run past everything and kill the knight up top for the Bloody Slash Ash of War. We'll be needing this later. Be sure to grab the left half of the Dectus medallion before you leave. From here we're going to ride north up to the Third Church of America, and we're going to grab our Flask of Wonders Physic. We'll grab some tears for it in a minute. Then just use the waygate in the pond behind the church and it'll teleport you over to Caelid. Once you get there, you just ride south to Lens Rise and pick up the Memory Stone for one additional spell slot. From here we're just going to ride south to Fort Ferrith and we're going to rest at the site of Grace to trigger a cutscene that will take us to the round table. Head over to the Twin Maiden Husks and buy a dagger and a rapier. When you're done, just head back to Fort Ferrith. At Fort Ferrith, you're just going to run past everything and climb the ladder as fast as you can. And once you reach the top of the ladder, you're going to see a chest. You want to stop and grab the right half of the Dectus medallion out of that chest, which means we now have access to the Grand Lift to Dectus. When crossing this roof, you want to hug the right side like I do to avoid spawning enemies. After jumping down inside, you want to avoid the rats and quickly grab the Radagon Sword Seal and use your Memory of Grace. This will quickly take you back to the site of Grace. From here, you're going to head southwest across the swamp to pick up the Meteorite Staff. This is by far the best staff for early game on low intelligence levels. And while we're here, we're also going to grab a really powerful spell called Rock Sling. Now we're going to make our way around to an area just west of where we are and kill the invisible teardrop scarab for my favorite Ash of War. It's called Flame of the Redmanes, and I'll show you why it's my favorite here shortly. Head back to Stormvale and follow this path around the right side of the castle and pick up the Academy Scroll. It'll be giving us access to a really useful spell. Now head a little bit north to the ruins and you'll find a waygate. Using this waygate will actually teleport you all the way to the south entrance of the Railucari Academy. Now be sure to grab the site of Grace here as a central location to be able to come back to later. Then you're going to use the method that I show here to quickly jump down and start heading northeast. There's a gazebo a pretty short distance northeast of where you're at and it'll have another waygate. This waygate lets you skip another large chunk of Liurnia and will teleport you to the map fragment in northwest Liurnia. From there you just jump down and grab the Intelligence Knot Crystal Tier. Putting this in your flask will give you 3 minutes of an additional 10 intelligence. Ride north and navigate your way through the manor for access to the Carian Grandeur Ash of War. This is our big damage skill. Now head southeast to the Railucaria Tunnel. Use this opportunity to upgrade and allocate your flasks. I recommend 3 to 4 HP to FP as we don't get hit much with this build. And be sure to put Rock Sling in one of your spell slots. Throw your Intelligence Knot Tier in your flask, and it's time to knock out your first boss. Summon your wolves to keep her distracted, and then just stay a safe distance and spam Rock Sling the entire fight. After about 2 Rock Slings, it should break her stance and she should take a lot more damage for the rest of the fight. And between the wolves and the Rock Sling, she should be staggered the entire fight and no threat at all. Killing her rewards you with the Smithing Stone Miner's Bellbearing 1, which gives you access to unlimited Smithing Stone 1s and 2s at the Twin Maiden Husks. From the Bellum Church side of Grace, just head northeast to the Grand Lift to Dectus and you should now have access to the Altus Plateau. After using the lift to get up to the plateau, just head east to the capital outskirts and head into the sealed tunnel. Here we'll grab the Smithing Stone Miner's Bellbearing 2 and now have access to unlimited Smithing Stones 3 and 4. While you're here, optionally, you can farm Smithing Stone 5s from the miners. They're extremely weak to fire, so just use your Flame of the Redmanes. 12 Smithing Stone 5s is exactly what you need to take your weapon from plus 12 to plus 15. Once you're finished in the sealed tunnel, just head back to Fort Ferrith over in Caelid, and be sure to put the Bloody Slash Ash of War with the blood affinity on the rapier. Head down to the Slumbering Dragon and just start hitting him until you start proccing big bleed chunks. It might take a little bit of time, but it's still pretty quick. Once the dragon's health bar reaches about 20%, you want to go in your inventory and use that Gold Pickle Foulfoot we picked up earlier for a huge bonus in runes. Then just finish off the dragon and watch for his tail to twitch, indicating that he's died. The second you see the tail twitch, you have to hurry back to the site of Grace or you'll lose this farm forever. However, if you make it back to the site of Grace fast enough, the dragon doesn't disappear and instead reappears, allowing you to farm him for more runes over and over again. This is the best way to get a lot of runes quickly early game. Now turn in your bell bearings and buy enough smithing stones to where you have 12 of each smithing stone, 1 through 4. Also feel free to buy a memory stone for an extra spell slot, and now you're going to level your rapier as high as you can. You should be able to take it all the way up to plus 15 if you took the time to farm the smithing stone 5s in the sealed tunnel. At this point I recommend heading back to Fort Ferrith and farming the slumbering dragon at least one more time. This will give us enough runes to level up quite a bit. For early game, I just recommend going 40 intelligence and 15 vigor. You should be around level 36 with a huge boost to damage. Now head back to the gate front and head southeast to the Waypoint Ruins. With Carian Grandeur on your plus 15 rapier, you should make pretty short work of the Mad Pumpkinhead. Then just make your way through the door that he was guarding to find Sorceress Selene. We could give her the Academy Scroll that we found earlier to gain access to the spell Great Glintstone Shard, which is a very good and useful spell for general map clearing. So feel free to go ahead and throw that in your 4th spell slot. Now we're going back to Liurnia and we're going to head into the Academy Crystal Cave. Access to this area requires a Stone Sword key. Just like the other Crystallian boss, you want to start off summoning your wolves as a distraction. You can use Roxling again, or you can use Flame of the Redmanes on your rapier, which I actually prefer because it makes the fight a little bit faster. Every 2 casts of Flame of the Redmanes will actually cause them to stagger, allowing you to do a critical. This is part of the reason why I use the rapier in my guides. It has one of the highest crit scores in the game, second only to the Misericord. If you're struggling, remember you can use Roxling as well. After another easy boss fight, take the elevator up to the top and open the chest for the Terra Magica spell. This spell puts a blue circle on the ground, and while you're in it, you do 35% more magic damage. Now head back to the Grand Lift of Dectus of Grace and head south to the Minor Erd Tree on the map. This fight can be made pretty easy if you do exactly what I do here. You see I open up with exactly 3 casts of Roxling, and then immediately follow up with 1 use of Flame of the Redmanes. This is enough to stagger him to get up and get a big critical, at which point, especially if you're new to the game, I recommend running back and jumping on top of this rock. This allows you to create some distance and buy some time to drink your flask of Cerulean Tears, and then safely finish him off from a distance with 2 casts of Roxling. If you use this method, even if you're very new to the game, you should have no problem taking down this Erd Tree avatar. And taking him down is extremely rewarding because he's holding the Magic Shrouding Crack tier. This is a tier for your flask that boosts all magic damage by 20%. So it's definitely a buff that's worth getting early game. Now if you head up the Grand Lift, there's actually an Everjail just to the southeast you can jump down to. I recommend putting Carian Grandeur on your rapier, and as a side note, this is going to cost another Stone Sword key. And this can be kind of a tough fight this early, it's completely optional. If you're going to do it, I recommend keeping your distance, using Roxling to stagger him, and then using Carian Grandeur. Then just basically rinse and repeating, creating some more space, using Roxling, stagger him, run up, use Carian Grandeur. And it's definitely doable and not too crazy, but if you're a new player, you can skip this. If you choose to do this, he does reward you with the Godfrey's Icon Talisman, which boosts the damage of all charged spells and skills like Carian Grandeur by 15%. If you're really struggling with him, just come back and do this later. For those of you who aren't really interested in tumble buffing and really maximizing the damage, I'm going to show you guys the power of this build on Margit with no tumble buffing, just our flask, that Golden Vow Ash of War, and Terra Magica, to show you how strong this build is even without all kinds of crazy min-maxing. So I'll just let you guys enjoy the show. As you guys can see, with no extensive buffing and only level 36, this build does incredible damage. So for those of you that are trying to play more of a melee mage, I highly recommend that you check this out. If you are still here, that means you enjoyed the video. Do me a big favor and smash that like button. And if you want to see more of our early guides or our end game builds, definitely head over to Titus Actual Gaming. I highly suggest you check out our latest video where we had the world first ever level 1 one-shot challenge. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Stay dangerous.